Hi, I'm Dr. Nate Overmeyer, coroner here at the Franklin County Forensic Science Center. I want to talk to you about the importance of physicians signing death certificates in a timely manner and how this service significantly impacts grieving families. As a former primary care physician, I would often not prioritize signing death certificates. I was wrong. The consequences of delaying signing death certificates keeps grieving families from being able to move on and literally prevents funerals from proceeding. Completing this administrative task should be done as soon as possible in order to accommodate these families during such a sensitive time in their lives.
Here in Franklin County, we've come to understand many physicians' hesitations when facing their role in signing a death certificate, whether it be fear of making a mistake, dealing with legal ramifications, or listing the wrong reason of death. We hear your concerns about signing death certificates, and we're here to ease those concerns. We want to encourage and empower you to understand how, when, and why you need to fulfill the professional obligation of signing a death certificate in a timely manner. In most cases, after EMTs and law enforcement have responded to a person's death and the information has been reported to us, we quickly recognize whether or not the investigation of this death will fall under the coroner's office jurisdiction. Once confirmed that it will not fall under our jurisdiction, we defer to the attending physician. By this time as well, we are speaking to you, who is responsible for signing the death certificate, explaining that there is no forensic concern, and more than likely or not, they have died as a result of their underlying natural disease process that you, the physician, have been treating the patient for.
Here, it is our obligation to sign death certificates if a person dies of criminal or violent means, whether by suicide or any other unnatural cause, including anyone who dies suddenly, who has been in good health, and especially if they are a child. But when someone dies a natural death, it is the professional obligation of the attending physician to sign that death certificate. To clarify, an attending physician means the physician in charge of the patient's care for an illness or condition directly, or while you are supervising a resident physician or APP. In circumstances involving a long-term care facility, the attending physician who provided medical care before admission may continue as the patient's physician of record, or the patient's care may have been transferred to the facility's medical director. Therefore, regardless if the attending physician has not seen the patient for some time, the patient's medical history should provide adequate information to state reasonable cause of death. Additionally, the physician does not need to be present at the time of death. The main point we want to empower you with is that there is absolutely no perceivable risk linked to signing a natural death certificate. Like many other coroner offices in the country, we receive complaints from patients' families, funeral homes, and others about physicians refusing to sign a death certificate, specifically regarding a death from natural causes.
Our mom's funeral was scheduled for Saturday, and the funeral director told us that they would have her ready as soon as possible once the death certificate was signed. A couple days went by and we hadn't heard anything, so we reached back out to see if the process was moving along and if they needed anything else from us. They told us that the doctor wouldn't sign the death certificate.
Once we found that out, we contacted the doctor's office ourselves and asked them why they wouldn't sign. The nurses couldn't tell us anything and the doctor wasn't available for us to speak with. I don't get it. I don't understand. This doctor took care of my mom for years. He prescribed her medication, and this is just making us feel so helpless and so angry at this. Our mother's being stored at the funeral home, and day by day it's costing us money. At this point, will we be able to have an open casket, or will she be too decomposed? Our family's from out of town, and they've had to cancel their plans to come back here. We don't know when the funeral service is gonna be, and this has been a lot on our mental health.
Think about it this way. What if this was your mother? All we want is for the doctor to sign the death certificate so that we can move forward, say goodbye, and start our grieving process. We can't even access her insurance policy without a signed death certificate. How are we supposed to get any closure? This has just created another headache that we don't want to deal with on top of the death of our mother. Our family doesn't deserve this, and our mother deserved better.
When you're asked to sign a death certificate, it's important to do so expediently, so families can move forward with burial or cremation. Without causing delays, families are able to bring closure and say their goodbyes. Now, I imagine that your medical education was similar to mine. The teaching on how to sign a death certificate was very brief, but thankfully, the steps to do so are rather straightforward. Let's take a look at a typical death certificate together. There are many lines, and it may look daunting, but the information that you need to provide on a death certificate is based on your best judgment, your measured clinical opinion based on your knowledge of the patient's clinical status and medical records of the cause of death. There is nothing to fear when signing the death certificate, and the risks of doing so are very limited. The very first line is asking you for your best measured opinion on the immediate cause of death. Below that and to the right, there is a manner of death box that you have to check. The only thing that a non-coroner can check is natural. There are a lot of different ways to state the cause of death. Here's an example of alcohol use disorder. However, it's okay to fill in a broader cause, such as complications of alcohol use disorder, or alcohol use disorder with complications, hepatic cirrhosis due to alcohol use disorder. There are 3 additional options below, and as you can see, they essentially say the same thing, that the cause of death was due to alcohol use disorder and that there may be some complications. Here's another case scenario where you see that in part 1, there are a number of lines, and part 1 shows predominantly what you believe is going to be the primary cause of death. This is on line A. And in this particular case, it's atherosclerotic disease and hypertensive cardiovascular disease. You don't have to fill out B, C, or D if there aren't any issues related to that, or if you don't think any complication from their cardiovascular disease exists. Or you can add that to part 2 with significant other conditions that may be or may not be directly related to part 1. Again, broad is okay. No need to be specific unless it's warranted. It's important to remember that words such as probable, presumed, and complications of are acceptable. It's believed physicians who have examined and treated the patient in the past are in the best position to make an educated determination of cause of death. That nobody's doing an autopsy on this patient, so there is no further information that anybody will be able to obtain about this patient. Even if new evidence is presented, the death certificate can be changed. It's your judgment, your opinion, and that's all they're asking for. We want to encourage you that there have been no cases of a physician being sued or going to jail for signing natural death certificates. This is your final act of caring for your patient. It's part of that oath that we all took when we graduated from medical school. And if your story is anything like mine, I hope that I helped you overcome any hesitations that you may have had with signing death certificates. Thank you so much